Hola a todos, hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial. Él es Scott Soracco, veterano del Ejército y candidato para el Distrito 29 aquí en Georgia. Gracias por estar con nosotros, Scott. Hello, everyone. Today we have a special guest. He is Scott Soracco, an Army veteran and candidate for District 29 here in Georgia. Welcome, Scott. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And this is a simple question, but the first question is why do you want to represent District 29?
I sort of grew up here in the area since 1968. Had a house on the lake. Every weekend and summers, we spent the time up here, and I watched this town grow and grow. I mean, there was no highway back then. They were still building it. So seeing the place grow and running into a lot of nice people up here, I decided this is where I wanted to retire and end up at the end of whatever my career took me. After college in North Georgia, I ended up getting a commission in the military and went off with the Army for 27 years of adventure and fun and lots of experience. I came back to Georgia, same area here in Oakwood, and thought, now what shall I do that I'm retired from the military? And that caused me to join FEMA. Um, Operational expertise, still managing large organizations, lots of people, and working with locals. But I did local work all across the United States, from Hawaii to Georgia. And that kept me busy and interested. And I've learned a lot and met a lot of fine folks and a lot of challenges that exist in government at all the different levels, from not just the state where FEMA comes in, but each county when they have a disaster or they have to be managed. Counties have cities inside of those, and the cities have different offices and permitting locations. And I mean, the government is huge. People don't realize how many levels. And that's what excited me when I came back here after FEMA. Time to retire again. What shall I get involved in? Well, let's find out how this politics thing works and see if I can help somehow at a level of government that will help Oakwood and Gainesville and the parts of Hall County that they live in. So I've been learning a lot here in just the last 4 months when I put my candidacy in. And so I like the area. It's got a lot of things going for it. It's still growing, and we have a population of many different diverse folks. And that's why I'm getting involved.
And this is a simple question too, but what is your, well, it's a important question too. What is your number one priority for Georgia?
The number one priority right now for me is to get involved in the education side of the house.
Mm,
I
okay.
understand, education is the largest part of the budget here in Georgia. But at the same time, I hear the words, oh, we fully funded education. But the fully funded, what is the definition of fully funded? Because a lot of folks tell me property taxes pays everything. It does not. Property tax pays half of what we need for the education throughout Georgia. The state pays the other half. Well, if the state General Assembly says they fully funded it and we need $100 million, did they fully fund 100 million? Or did they say, let's give it 50 million and we fully fund 50 million? That's what I understand is starting to happen because they can cut programs this way. But we also have different programs out there that the teachers' salaries, they say we've raised teachers' salaries. Well, I know people who are teachers and they say they got a cost of living allowance. That's a raise. Okay. But is that really a raise to the salary that's going to attract teachers to come to Georgia and then want to stay in the job more than 3 or 4 years? Sometimes you get in the teaching business and it turns out it's not quite what you expected. So let's work on that funding aspect as well to increase the teachers. Now, what else? There are programs, of course, that go before school. We have the K-4 programs. We have a lot of schools here in Gainesville that involve language learning. They have all the fancy names, Language Academy, Spanish and English. And I am, having not been a teacher in the system here in Gainesville, I am not yet an expert, but I believe that we can throw a little more money because I keep hearing that our current legislators want to give us money back. Well, if we got so much money laying around that we can just give it back to the voters, and that costs money to give it back to you as a check or whatever, what are you going to get? $60 per family to get back? We have the funds. Let's use it to increase and plan for the future and get everybody involved in good education. I mean, if we can get after high school, do the next two levels of, say, associate degree paid for by the state at a state school. Let's look into those kind of programs. Other folks are able to do it. I've seen it overseas. Some countries have education free all the way through. I don't know what's possible, totally. But let's look into it and see what we can fix. Now, this is not just a one party kind of thing. This is we have experts that do this. We have teachers that are involved in this. We have a whole school system from the education department that we hired, the Board of Education, and they hire the superintendent, and they hire those principals, and the principals have a say-so on teachers they get. They are the experts in the system. Let's get with them and find out how we can help them help us help all of our folks.
And Scott, the health is a big problem in USA because so expensive for many families in USA. But how can we make health cheaper?
That's another big, huge challenge we have.
Yeah.
Okay, step one, Georgia is one of the 10 states that has not expanded Medicaid. They opted not to do that. And by not expanding the Medicaid, and of course, Medicaid is your program for folks that bring in less than 7,500. Well, if we do expand the Medicaid, that's going to give us more federal funding that allows us to ensure that we have hospitals and clinics available for all areas of the state, not just here in Hall County. Now, yes, I'm rooting for Gainesville and Oakwood here in Hall County, but this affects the entire state. We have rural areas. Let's just go to Atlanta and look south of I-20 highway. You have Grady Hospital right there in Atlanta. If you go south of Grady, there are no hospitals until you get almost down to Noonan. I mean, I think you have to get down to Morrow. The South Fulton Hospital there by the airport, it shut down a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's mismanagement, lack of funding, but there's not enough funding to keep things going. This is happening across the state. So step one, let's expand the Medicaid. That's going to help all the programs because it will get hospitals and clinics out there throughout the state itself. Okay. Other systems we can look at. If you wake up in the morning and you go, I am in the military, great. You have free medical care. There's doctors available. Off you go. Number two, I'm not in the military. I'll say, I am rich. You go call your doctor and you get to see a doctor. All right. What do we have left? We have the third system that we have, which is the insurance companies pretty much run the show. First of all, let's find out what these hospitals and doctors, what are they billing? When was the last time you went to medical service and they told you, oh, that's going to cost X amount of money? They don't discuss money anymore. It's all hiding behind the wall. So we can make that into a requirement where they must discuss what is going to be expected as far as a bill goes. Okay, that's not going to make it cheaper yet, but now we have transparency on what the costs are. Why does it cost you this and you this? And it seems to be different sometimes. All right, what if we have a fourth program where people call it universal health care? Other countries have it. It's not always the best. I mean, I've got friends in other countries who say, yeah, it sounds wonderful, but the doctors are seeing 200 patients a day and they don't really care about the patient. They're just happy to go home at the end of the day. So there are good and bad with all kinds of systems, but that's something possibly we could look at. So what if we, the state, we get the federal government involved if we have to, but we pay for doctors to go to medical school and they promise to stay here in Georgia and work in an area for 3 to 4 years, one part of the state, just to make sure we're taking care of our folks, just like the military does. The military pays for medical folks to go to school, and they have to spend 3 years in the program serving the military. And then they can stay another year or two, or they can leave. We could do the same kind of system for all of our civilian population. Let's look into it and give it a try. I mean, you're right. It's very expensive. Perhaps someday we'll get Cuba to open up, and we get to open the door and have them come. I understand they have thousands of doctors that they share around the world. Why not? They're trained. We have a lot of good medical people in the world. Let's see how many we can get to come to America with the proper system and get them here.
And this is a important question, because you are a Army veteran. How does your Army experience help you in politics?
Well, the first step is my father always made fun of me because he said, "You joined the army." And my father's from Argentina,
Mm.
and he spent his 2 years in the Argentine military. It was in the medical practice, but he has his army experience days. And when I told him I'm going in the army, he said, What are you going to do? You're going to march around like we did." Oh, no, 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 no. Wait a minute. First of all, I have a commission. So as an officer, I led troops and ran a lot of programs. What I learned in the military was one, teach people to do their job. We teach and we instruct and we educate and we get information. From there, we have a challenge. When you have a challenge or an operation, something we need to accomplish, we gather the facts, we come up with courses of action, and then we choose the best course of action that meets the needs of the program. Why are we doing this operation? This is the same thing I see in politics. You get all the experts together, we work together, we come up with the facts, and we choose courses of action that are going to benefit the population of the state or whatever section we're dealing with. And we can choose on that. And if it's something that has to be voted on by the people, we put it out for the population to vote on. So I see it as a continuation of planning, the whole collaboration. This is not just me talking to, say, the Democrats. This is across the aisle. This is everybody, independents, Republicans, Democrats. We all need to be involved, even people who are not in a party of some sort. We get the folks in the room and we work it out. We have people who know how to do a lot of things, and the politicians don't have all the answers. Yeah, they're in the office and we get to help them make laws, but what laws do we need to accomplish something? Let's move forward with that. But that's where my experience comes from the Army. Same thing in FEMA, working with different levels of government, because in the Army, I spent time with international partners. In a lot of my programs, counterterrorism, counter narcotics, I dealt with other countries, nations. I dealt with their assets in the field, and there's a lot of wonderful people in the world, and they also have expertise that could possibly help us. Let's ask and get together and solve challenges.
And Scott, we have a complicated situation with Iran in this moment. And but how do international conflicts affect the economy in Georgia?
The way it affects the economy in Georgia is because right now you have the Strait of Hormuz that has the oil flow. That's the biggest challenge when it comes to the economy, because if the oil is not flowing across the world, it's not just a US problem, then it affects the prices of transportation, which is the ships themselves need fuel to run, and we use oil to create the fuel. Same with the aircraft. A lot of our things come by aircraft, not just people going on vacation, but people who have Amazon, they buy things, they fly them from Memphis and it comes around. That increases the prices as well. The ships that bring in food, what about the trucks? If you don't need a ship to bring stuff to America, uh, not just the oil, but we have the trucks who bring the food to our grocery stores. That fuel, diesel, gas, it all goes up. That increases the price. The companies have to pass that price on to the consumer. And the only way to do it is to raise the prices. That's how it affects us directly. Now, the war in Iran itself, if the objective, I understand it, was to go for the nuclear side of the house, that's the main point. Yes, great idea. Let's try to make the world a bit safer. But the challenge now is the Strait of Hormuz has been closed and it's affecting the oil prices across the world. And this is not just us, it's in Europe. And the prices in Europe that go up, it causes same prices here. We have a world economy.
Mm.
And therefore, when it comes to the States, it affects Georgia, no matter how you look at it. And I bet everybody's seen the prices go up, not just the gas pump, but your groceries as well. How can we make it go back down again? Well, when the oil gets back going again, it's going to take, I understand, 6 months to a year to get back to normal. It doesn't happen overnight. So in our shopping preferences, we just got to make the right choices, select the fruits, the good food for the healthy family. We don't need all the candies and the things that's going to cause you to have to go see the doctor for your teeth. So if we have to tighten our belt, that's what we have to do. But we can make the smart choices. And there's organizations out there that are there to help us. I met with some just the other day. There was a food pantry for some of the folks who need additional help. there's a lot of great folks and organizations out there trying to help those of us who need the extra help.
And what do you think, or what is your position, Scott, and about the on border security?
All right. One challenge we have in this country is every time we seem to change the administration on the executive side, the president, we seem to have policy changes. Immigration itself is confusing for everyone. I mean, those of us who are citizens, I once saw the citizen test just to become a citizen. Half the Americans I know can't even pass the test unless they were to study for a couple of days. It's very challenging. Okay, so we've closed the border, is my understanding. We still have immigration coming into this country. If folks were able to come into the country illegally, I've heard from both sides of the street. We have immigrants who have come legally, for example, like my father. Folks I've talked to here in Georgia have told me if they came in illegally, they need to leave. Okay, well, how much does it cost to track down these folks who were able to come into the United States? They came into the country under whatever policy was open at that time. And if the border was very relaxed and they were able to come in the country and stay without a problem, say 10, 15, 20 years ago, now we're going to spend billions of dollars to try to kick them back out after they've come and start setting up families and house. I'd like to see if there's a way that we can allow folks to stay, not just the legal immigrants, but the ones who've been here for 10 or 15 years and now they're still claimed as to be illegal. Perhaps we can set up a system where they check in with the government, they get a driver's license. We may charge a little more than a normal fee, maybe say $500. That covers the cost of getting them in the system and let them become citizens, a path to citizenship. We do this in the military. We have folks that come in and join the military and they can become citizens. So the challenge I have is as a representative for the state, we do not control immigration policies. That's controlled by the federal government on the executive branch. But what we can do is try to come up with ideas for Georgia and see if we can get them through the federal process and influence that immigration policy in some way. I just don't think we need to spend all of our money kicking people back out unless they are a known criminal. And I don't think we have 100,000 known criminals running around the streets.
Mhm.
That's just that's not possible. We have a lot of good folks here, and they're doing a lot of good work. Let's get them in the system.
And specific in Georgia, what is your plan for immigration laws in Georgia?
The immigration, which ones?
What is your
Laws.
plan? What is your plan for immigration laws in Georgia?
And that goes back to since the federal government sets the policies, we really don't have a lot to say when it comes to how they enforce those laws. I know we'd like to have, if they're coming after immigrants that have gotten here illegally, we would like to have the immigration authorities have a warrant for their arrest to do things legally. The first thing I'm seeing is they're coming after folks who are not here legally, and they seem to don't have a lot of training or leadership in how they're affecting that policy because this has been going on for years. The ICE thing is not new. It came out of customs, and when Homeland Security was created, they just broke the department out to its own separate department. But they actually, under current US law, they don't need a warrant to come after somebody. What can we do in Georgia? That goes back to what that policy is. If we could get the federal government to work with us and say, let's not waste all the money kicking folks out. Let's see if we can get them into the system with that. Apply for the driver's license, register yourself, explain the fact that you got here illegally when you arrived, and let's get you in the system. Like I said, I don't think we need to get rid of everybody. Not everybody came here is a criminal. Not everybody came to they came to America because this is a home of immigrants. The whole country was formed by immigrants. Let's open the doors and let them in. I mean, do they have to come to the cities? Let's build new cities out west. Ever gone toward California? We got a whole desert out there that's got plenty of space. we can start fresh cities from the ground up. I would like to see if we could change some policy, but it works. It involves working with the federal government and the state to see what's a reality and possible. Maybe there's a section of the United States that we could all let. It's
Scott,
not a sanctioned city, that kind of stuff doesn't really work. It's got to be tied with the federal government so they all agree.
okay, Scott, how will you work with Republicans in Georgia?
I've never been a like strong on a party. I've
Mhm.
always voted for the person that I thought would do the best job. I guess you would call me an independent. And I see that in the same job. Right now, I'm running as a Democrat because when I looked into how to get involved in this position, I was told if you want to do independent, you have to have like 5,000 signatures from people. Well, I've I've been traveling with the Army 27 years and I've been gone for 11 years doing disaster management. I don't think I know 5,000 people that I could meet enough signatures fast enough. Turns out the Democratic Party called me and said, "Hi, we would like to have people run against the Republican incumbents that have never had anybody go against them for 2, 4 years, sometimes 6. Will you run for the one in Georgia, right here in Gainesville, Oakwood, Hall County?" I said, "Yes." Okay, so I'm going to run against the Republican guy who hasn't had anybody up against him. Great. Well, it doesn't matter what party you're in. If we have challenges to solve, we're all together. The job of the representative in the Senate is to help the citizens of the state. We're here to bring your challenges, your desires, your wants. What do you want done? And bring it up. And if it requires a law, let's make a law. If the law we have is stupid, like in healthcare, where you can't have an abortion if you need one, get rid of the law. I mean, there's a lot of stupid stuff happening. There was a law passed recently saying you can't have a cell phone in schools. Why is the state getting involved in your school? We have the Board of Education, superintendent, the what's it called, the principal, and teachers to enforce the classroom. You don't need state legislatures wasting their time on that. Let's get the rest of us together, the Republicans, the Democrats, the independents, and work to help what you want. We're here for you, the citizen, and I want to represent all people. I'm
Mm,
not here for just few people.
okay. And Scott, finally, what is your final message for the voters?
The best final message would be it's your voice, it's your choice.
Mm,
I need you to register to vote. Use your right and get out there and vote. But vote for the person you think is going to do the best job. You don't have to stick with a party. Maybe you go to the general election and you like that guy for this job and you like that lady for this job. Do some research, figure out what you want and who you want to represent you, because that's our job, to represent you. So that's the most important thing, is that you vote.
okay. And thank you very much for the interview. And uh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.